Good evening, all the participants. Now we are playing ICI Moto song. I request all to put their right hand on their heart. Now I request Chairman CA Fanil Shah to address the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishan Bhai. The speaker for the evening, CS Shilpi Thapar, the chairperson of Women Empowerment Committee, CA Anjali Choksi, Secretary of Branch, CA Bishan Shah, and also the co-convener of Women Empowerment Committee, CA Hema Shah, and the members attending from all over the India. I welcome you all to this particular webinar, specifically to discuss that how we can prepare for the proficiency self-assessment test for independent director and what after once we clear the same. Friends, before we start up, at the outset, I would like to wish you all a happy Gujarat Day today, being the 1st May 2020. And friends, another two important announcement. Today morning, you might have received the newsletter, either by email or by SMS or by WhatsApp. Kindly go through the same because it is having a few important new things for the very first time, such as if you have missed out any webinar, the link of the same along with the speaker is also available in that particular newsletter. You can have the access to that, and also various important other particular webinar details which happened in the April month. Moreover, friends, tomorrow we are having a very important panel discussion. We as a chartered accountant have many questions, such as if we have done an investment or our client have done an investment, we need to answer them that what would be the situation of our investment post COVID-19 lockdown ends. Or if we or our client wants to make an investment, then which is the sector which is good for making an investment? To answer this similar type of queries, we are having a panel discussion tomorrow from stalwarts of Ahmedabad, from the field of stock market, from the field of real estate and gold and gems. And it will also be online on radio also. So kindly take the benefit of this tomorrow evening from 4 to 5:30. The registrations are still open. So with this brief word, I again welcome the speaker and other on the dais. And now I request CA Anjali Choksi to take the session ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary CA Bishan Shah, the expert faculty of the day, Dr. CS Shilpi Thapar, the co-chairman CA Hema Shah, and my dear friends. When it is anything related to directors, the first thing which comes to my mind is Dr. CS Shilpi Thapar. She has many achievements and accolades, and I think the CV runs in 4 to 5 pages. But I'll share a few important things. She's a practicing company secretary with 14 years plus experience as a company secretary under the name of Shilpi Thapar and Associates. She is qualified for the certified independent director. She cleared it on the first day on the first slot, and that's how we and Hema Shah got the inspiration to clear this exam. A few of the achievements to share is accorded with the highest honor, Doctor of Excellence, honoris causa by International Accreditation Commission Global in collaboration with KIS International University, South Korea. She has received the Award of Excellence by World Peacemakers and Diplomat Global Organization. She has also received the Women Appreciation and Achiever 2013 trophy from worthy hands of Srimati Smriti Irani. She is also the first lady chairperson of Ahmedabad chapter of ICSI. She has also served as the independent director of the government company wholly owned by Government of Gujarat. She is a regular speaker at Institute of Company Secretary, including ICAI, and many more things. A very strong lady, a friend, and a neighbor. I welcome you, Dr. C.S. Shilpi Thapar. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Thank you for so kind words. Is I think a little bit exaggerated, but thank you so much. So today's topic is independent directors. Independent directors is a booming word today, and I think all the professionals they are thinking to start a career as an independent director in any company. But due to the increased regulatory reforms, the monitoring of the government, the expectation from the independent directors have increased day by day. So in today's webinar, in today's session, we will discuss about like if you want to start a career as an independent director, what skills you needed, what are the legal compliances you should able to know, before selecting a board seat on any company as independent director. And second part is how to appear for this exams and clear the exams for the as an eligible independent director. Yes, Anjali. Can you please slide the PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, Anjali, next slide.
Yeah, one minute.
She's just trying to open that in the PPT.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So part A of this webinar is independent directors. So what we'll discuss in this part A is what are the legal compliances or legal provisions which is applicable to the independent directors if you want to get appointed in any company. What legal compliances or provisions you need to know as far as companies act and LODR, and what are the skills which are required to take a board seat. So we'll start with a very good quotation I came across. The best directors are those who think independently regardless of their status. In other words, independence is a state of mind and not a resume item. So if your tag is independent director, it doesn't mean that you are an independent director. Independence is a state of mind. So it is a quote by the very famous corporate governance expert Ram Charan. He's a world-renowned the expert. Second, next slide. Now, how this concept of independent directors, adapted, or how this concept of independent director, came in the mind of the government or, in the corporate world. So, a person who holds an independent position in a company, who does not represent the management, who does not represent the majority of the shareholders of the company, who is able to express the opinion without any favor or any fear, who is able to challenge the current board practices, who has expertise and experience and is impartial on the board, who is a bridge, in clearing the deadlock in the company. Suppose if any deadlock is there in any decision making on the board, then he is a person, who is expected to clear this deadlock, who improves the approach towards the ethical issues and stakeholder benefits. The independent directors are bound to be a watchdog, as well as they have to protect the interest of the minority shareholders, and also they have to act as an advisor of the majority shareholders. So it's a very technical position, and a very you have to perform this position with ultimate care. Then there is a limitation on remuneration and stake. We know that the independent directors cannot hold any equity shares in the company. They can only get a remuneration or the commission or a sitting fees. Yes, Anjali. I think there's a loss of connection.
Yeah. Can you see the next slide? Hello.
Yeah, I need a previous slide.
Concept of independent director, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a limitation on remuneration and stakes, and he acts as an arbitrator during the disagreement between two or more directors or the management of the company. So because in the corporate world, in the government thought that we need such kind of characteristics in a particular director, so that is why the concept of independent directors came in the corporate world. Next slide. Now, why the independent directors are needed? If you compare, the earlier position of the corporate scenario, now there is an increase in power and operations of the company. Many companies have become global. There are scattered shareholders. Even the international institutional investors are there on the shareholding list of the company. They are the shareholders of the company. There is a diversification of investors' portfolio. There is an increased corporate fiasco. Every month you are hearing, some of the other corporates, have stumbled, and there's a breakdown in the board or in the corporate itself. And there is a worldwide momentum of corporate governance, that is accountability and transparency. So because of these 5 reasons, there is a need to have independent directors on the board. Next slide. Now, what are the major regulatory requirements for the manner and selection of independent directors? This is a provision which is applicable to independent director. If you want to get appointed as independent director in a particular company, it is necessary you should go through these provisions very strictly. So what are the provisions? That is section 247 of the Companies Act 2013, which defines the definition of the independent director. Section 149(4) to 13 of the Companies Act, Section 150 of the Companies Act, that is also related to the definition and the process of the selection and appointment and code of conduct of the independent directors. Rule 456 of the Companies Appointment and Qualification of Directors Rules 2014. The Company's Creation and Maintenance of Data Bank of Independent Director Rules 2019. Rule 8. Companies Accounts and Amendment Rules 2019, that is regarding now from this year you need to make a disclosure in the board report that the independent directors who are appointed on the board, they have passed the self-assessment test. So this, and they possess the integrity and relevant experience and expertise. So this statement is required to be incorporated in the board report this year. Code of Independent Directors, Schedule 4 of the Companies Act. Now, this is very important. This is a Bible for any independent director, and I think it has to be read several times to know what is your duty, what is your responsibility, and what is your role in any company, and what is your liability along with that. Regulation 17 of LODR, that again discussed about the definition of the independent director. Now, definition of independent director as per listing agreement is somewhere different from the Companies Act. And constitution of the Institute for a Data Bank of Independent Director, compliance is required to be done by the independent director. So these are the major provisions of Companies Act and LODR, which I think every independent director should have on their tips. Next one. Now we go to the definition of an independent director. Why I want to demonstrate this definition, because from this definition you'll be able to know that what is needed from you, what is expected from you. Please note that the expectation from independent directors has increased tremendously. We are treated as a watchdog in the company, and this position we cannot take it for granted, or you just cannot take this position if you are not well equipped. So we need to understand what is the definition of independent director, even for your own sake, for the appointment purpose. Even before the appointment, you have to give a declaration to the board of directors in the very first meeting that you comply with all the requirements. If any lapse is there in compliances of all these requirements, you will be held liable, and the liability is tremendous, that we'll discuss later on. Section 149(6) of the Companies Act 2013. So what is independent director? Independent director means a director other than a managing director or a whole-time director or nominee director. So you can't be a managing director, you can't be a nominee whole-time director or nominee director in any board along with holding of this position. First is, who is in opinion of the board is a person of integrity and possess relevant expertise and experience. So this is very important. The board has to decide whether the person who is appointed as an independent director or proposed to be appointed as an independent director, he is a person of integrity. He possesses the relevant experience and expertise, to sit on the board. So normally what I have seen that, even the appointment process of the independent directors, which is done in the company, is wrong. Normally what happens, the board appoint the independent director as an additional director, and then, it is confirmed in the general meeting. No, this process is strictly wrong. Independent directors cannot be appointed by the board. The board can only recommend the name of the independent director to the general meeting, and the resolution of the appointment has to be strictly passed in the general meeting. So many companies, are following the wrong process of appointment of independent directors. Second is, who is or was not a promoter of the company or is holding subsidiary or associate company. So even if you are a promoter of the company, of any holding company or a subsidiary company or associate company, or even in previous past you were having some connection as a promoter with this company, you are not eligible to be appointed as an independent director in any company. Second is who is not related to promoters or directors in the company, is holding subsidiary or associate company. Not related means if you are an individual, if the promoter is individual, you are his relative, and you have to take into consideration the definition of relative as per as Companies Act. And if the promoter is a company, then any employees, their advisors, or the directors who are sitting on the board, they all are considered as related. So if you are related in any manner, you cannot occupy a position of independent director on the board. Who has or no pecuniary relationship other than remuneration or such director, or having a transaction not exceeding 10% of his total income with his holding with the company, with his holding company or associate company or its promoters. So you should not have any pecuniary relationship, except you can take a remuneration, or you can have a transaction which does not exceed the 10% of total income of the particular company. Next. None of whose relative, even your relatives are also, you have to take into consideration the position of your relatives in that particular company. None of your relatives is holding a security or any share. He should not be a shareholder or an interest in the company. It's holding a subsidiary. Please take note that it's holding, subsidiary, and associate company. These three entities are also covered along with the company in which you are proposed to be appointed. So you have to do a 360 view, due diligence, before giving your consent to act as an independent director during the 2 immediately preceding financial years. So 2 years you have to see, previous 2 years you have to see for that, provided that relative may hold a security or an interest in the company of face value not exceeding 50 lakh rupees or 2% of the paid up capital of the company. So this is the exemption which is given. So if it is below that threshold, then you can very well you can occupy the position. Is indebted to the company's holding subsidiary, associate, or the promoter director in excess of such amount as may be prescribed in immediately. So if you are indebted to the company in any way in preceding 2 years, then also you are not eligible. Has given the guarantee or provided any security in connection with the indebtedness of the company of any third party to the company, its holding subsidiary. So if you are a guarantor, on behalf of third party to the company or its holding or subsidiary, then also you are not eligible. And the tenure you have to look is what? 2 years immediately preceding the financial year in which you are proposed to be appointed. Next. Has any pecuniary transaction or relationship with the company or is holding amounting 2% or more of his gross turnover or total income singly or combination with a transaction. So if you are having any transaction, sale, purchase or something which amounts to 2% of the gross turnover of that particular company, then also you are not eligible. Who neither himself nor any of his relative hold or has a position of KMP or has been employee of the company or is holding subsidiary in a 3 financial year. So if you are holding, you are a past employee and you are holding the KMP position, that is whether you were a whole-time director, managing director, CFO, CS, if you are occupying that kind of position as a KMP or has been an employee also in a company, then also in the last 3 financial year, then also you are not eligible. If you are a proprietor or an employee or a partner in any of the 3 financial years immediately preceding the year in which you are proposed to be appointed of any firm of auditors or company secretary in practice. Suppose if I am a consultant to the company, so I cannot be appointed as an independent director in that company. We have to see the position of last 3 years, whether you were associated in any of this position with that particular company. Any legal or consulting firm that has or has a transaction with the company, its holding subsidiary amounting to 10%. Now, except the firm of auditor, company secretaries and cost accountants, any other management consultancy firm is hired by that company, then you have to see whether you are connected with that firm, and the firm is earning 10% or more of the gross income, from that company. So you are not eligible for that. Hold together with relatives 2% or more of total voting power of the company. Now this is mostly applicable in the companies which are limited by guarantee, having paid up capital. So here you have to take into consideration the total voting power, means the voting power which you get from the equity share capital of the company. So total voting power, 2% of the voting power if you exceed, then you are not eligible. If you are a chief executive or director or whatever name called of any non-profit organization which have a connection with that company and it receives 25% or more of the receipt from the particular company's holding company, associate company, then also you are not eligible. And who possesses the other qualification as far as Rule 5 of the Companies Appointment and Qualification of Directors Rule. So what Rule 5 suggests? An independent director shall possess appropriate skills. This is very important. Please note down. You should possess appropriate skills. You know what we read in the definition, the first point, that the board has to form an opinion that you possess the appropriate skills. So appropriate skill, experience, and knowledge in one or more field of finance, law, management, sales, marketing, administration, research, corporate governance, technical operations, or any other discipline related to the company's business. So if you are expert in all these fields, then the board has to form an opinion that you are perfect for the appointment. And none of the relatives of an independent director for the purpose is in. So here, this is again, you know, if your relatives are also indebted to the company and has given any guarantee, you know, with the debt related to the company, its holding, subsidiary, and associate, then also you have to, you are ineligible to get appointed for that. Next. Now we come to the SEBI LODR 2015 definition. This is applicable to the listed companies, and more or less the definition is same, and the eligibility criteria is also same. But there are certain, you know, additional criteria which has to be taken into consideration when you are appointed as an independent director in any listed company, which I have already highlighted in green. So independent director means a non-executive director other than a nominee director of the listed company. So it's all listed. It's related to the listed company. Next, the definition is same. I'm only going to explain the variation vis-a-vis the Companies Act. So this is the additional E point. This is the additional part. Is a material supplier, service provider, or customer, or lessor or lessee of the listed entity. So this was not there in the Companies Act 2013 definition. So if you are a material supplier, or a service provider, or a customer, or a lessor or lessee of the listed company, you are not eligible. Who is not less than 21 years of age. So for appointment of an independent director in a listed company, the age is 21, vis-a-vis in Companies Act, it is 18 years. So this is a difference. Who is not a non-independent director of another company on the board, of which any non-independent director of listed company is an independent director. So the drafting is very vague, but in the simple terms, suppose if I am on the board of A Limited and Anjali is also a director with me, and I'm an independent director in Limited, and Anjali is an executive director. So I cannot be appointed as an independent director of B Limited if Anjali is an independent director of a B Limited. So this is a cross connection should not be there. Cross directorship should not be there. Next, Anjali. Now, where you can find the presence of independent directors. So first is listed company. Every listed company shall have at least 1/3 of total number of directors and independent director. Any fraction in that 1/3 shall be counted as 1. Regulation 17 of SEBI LODR mandates a higher number of independent directors. That is, you know, the composition of board should be such that the board of directors shall have a minimum optimum combination of executive and non-executive director, in which at least one women director should be there, and not less than 50% of board of directors should comprise of non-executive directors. Means 50% should be non-executive, including independent directors, and the rest 50% can be an executive director. Where the chairman of the board is a non-executive director, at least 1/3 of the board should comprise of independent director, and in case the company does not have regular non-executive chairman, at least half of the board should comprise of the independent director. So if the board chairman is a non-executive director, he is not executive, then 1/3, and if it is executive, then half of the board should be comprised of the independent directors. Next. So again, if the promoter, we are coming to the related to any promoter. We were discussing in the definition as well as Companies Act auto. If you are related to any promoter, so what do you mean by related to any promoter? So the clarification is given in the listing, this clause 17 of the listing agreement. If the promoter is a listed company, his directors other than the independent directors, his employees or its nominee shall be deemed to be related to it. And if the promoter is an unlisted entity, his directors, his employee or its nominee shall be deemed to be related to it. Next. Subsidiary company. So as per as regulation 24 of LODR provisions, at least one independent director on board of directors of listed company shall be a director on board of directors of an unlisted material company. So if A Limited and B Limited is there, B Limited is a material subsidiary. Material subsidiary means whose income or net worth exceeds 20% of the consolidated income of net worth of the A Limited. So previously it was 10%. Now with effect from 1st April 2018, it has been increased to 20%. So one director of that listed company should be there as an independent director on this unlisted material subsidiary also, whether incorporated in India or abroad. Next. Now we come to the unlisted public company. So we know that the independent directors are required to be appointed compulsory on the listed company, on the unlisted company, which are satisfying the following criteria. That is public company with a paid up capital of 10 crores or more, public company with turnover of 100 crores or more, and public company with aggregate outstanding loan, debentures and deposit exceeding rupees 50 crores. So they should have at least 2 directors and independent directors on the board. Next. Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. Now section 135, we know that CSR committee is to be incorporated when your net worth of the company is 500 crores or more, or turnover is 1000 crore, or net profit is 5 crores or more during the immediately preceding financial year. Now in that CSR, the board should consist of 3 or more directors, out of which at least 1 director shall be an independent director. Next. Audit committee, here also we find the presence of independent directors. The audit committee should consist of minimum of 3 directors, and majority of the directors, that is, if suppose 2/3 of the majority of the directors should be independent directors. Next. Now again, the audit committee, as far as SEBI LODR provision, there are some additional requirements are there. The audit committee should have minimum 3 directors as members. It is very clear. 2/3 of the members of audit committee shall be independent director, and the quorum of the audit committee meeting shall either be 2 members or 1/3 of the member of audit committee, whichever is greater, with at least 2 independent directors. So audit committee, you need a presence of compulsory 2 independent directors in every meeting. Otherwise, you will not have quorum and your meeting will be treated as invalid. Next. Stakeholder relationship committee. Now here it is not compulsory, but where you are having a differential voting right, shareholders, the shareholders carrying differential voting rights, special voting rights. So there you need to have a independent director on your stakeholder relationship committee. Next one. So at least 3 directors, with at least 1 being an independent director, shall be a member of the committee, and in case of listed entity having outstanding superior rights, at least 2/3 of the stakeholder committee shall comprise of the independent directors. Next. Now this is very important. Declaration under section 149(7). Whenever you are proposed to be appointed in as an independent director in any company, or you are already occupying a position of independent director in a particular company, in the beginning of the financial year, you have to submit this declaration as per section 149(7) to the board in the first board meeting, and in first board meeting it has to be noted clearly. Now what is this declaration? It is nothing but the compliance of the definition, which we have seen under section 149(6), that I am not associated with the company in any manner which is prescribed in 149(6), and on that basis the board will form an opinion that you are fit and proper, and you possess a required integrity, required expertise, and you have that independence, to act as an independent director on the board. So if anybody is not clear about this definition, or make any mistake in complying with the independency, which is as far as the criteria which is mentioned in the definition, he will be held liable, personally liable for that. Next. So be very sure about this definition. Now we come to the most important part, that is the role of independent director. So why I'm discussing all these things, that you will be clear that what is expected from you. Until and unless you are clear what is expected from you as an independent director, what is your role, responsibility and liabilities, and what you are out to do in the board as an independent director, you're not able to perform your duty to your to your best, and there are chances that you will make a mistakes, or you'll be held liable for the decisions for which you are not even the party to it. So on this basis, you'll able to do the SWOT analysis, that what skills I'm having right now, and what skills I need to possess, in order to take a board seat as an independent director. So independent director shall bring, so this is a role, this is expected from you, strictly expected from you if you are occupying a position of an independent director. You should bring an independent judgment on the issue of strategy, performance, risk management, resources, key appointment, and standard of conduct. So this all, issues or this all area, you should develop your expertise in this area. That is strategy, performance, risk management, resources, key appointments, and standard of conduct. Bring an objective view in the evaluation and performance of board and management. So your role is also to evaluate the board. You must be knowing that the independent director has to conduct one independent meeting at the end of the during the year, in which they has to evaluate the chairman and even the other directors on the board. So this is very important part. You should know how to evaluate the performance of board, which also include the expertise in human resources, I think. Third is scrutinize the performance of management in meeting, agreed goals and objective, and monitor the reporting of performance. So you have to scrutinize the performance of the management, that is the senior management, including CEO, CFO. So whether they are performing their duties, or whether they're giving the performance as far as your mission and vision of the company. Ensure the integrity of financial information and that financial controls and systems and risk management are robust and defensible. So the most important thing is you have to ensure that the financial information which is kept on the board, or which is given along with the agenda, it is proper and it is authentic, and the information flow is flowing proper in the board, and there are adequate financial controls and system of risk management in the company. To safeguard the interest of all stakeholders, and particularly minority shareholders. Now this is very important. You have to perform a dual role. You have to protect the interest of minority shareholders, as well as you have to act as an advisor to the majority shareholders. So it is a very a dilemma kind of position, where you have to be very particular about the decision which is taken on the board. Balance the conflicting interest of stakeholders. Determine the appropriate level of remuneration of ED, KMP, senior management, and their appointment and removal. So you are also involved in determining the appropriate level of remunerations, moderation and arbitration in the situation of conflict between the management and shareholders' interest. So wherever there is a conflict between the board of directors, suppose in India, we know that 80% of the companies are promoter-based companies. So you will always, if you want to be an independent director of an Indian company, you will always come across with such kind of situations where there is a conflict between the decisions taken by the board and in the end whether they satisfied the interest, even they are in the best interest of the stakeholders or not. So you will be always in that dilemma position to balance this off. Next. Now, what is your responsibility as independent director? Uphold the ethical standards of integrity and probability, act objectivity and constructively, act in the bona fide manner, devote sufficient time and attention for informed and balanced decision making. This is very important. If you are not able to devote time, I think you're not able to justify a role, and it's a very risky thing to occupy the board seat. Unbiased independent judgment, expressing dissent. So you should always carry that mindset of independent mindset. And if you are not, in consistence with the decision which is taken by the board, you should have the guts to, dissent and make it sure that your dissent is recorded in the minutes. Not to abuse your position for the purpose of gain. Refrain from any action that would lead to loss of his independence. Inform the board immediately in case of loss of independence. Whenever you see that the definition under section 149(6) is not complying, or I'm my relative, or I'm associated, I'm getting associated or related with the company in any manner, you have to inform the board immediately. If you don't disclose it, you will put yourself in a great trouble. Assist the company in implementing the best corporate governance practices. So you can see what is your role and what is your responsibility and what is the gravity of it. And it's really the expectation from the independent director is huge. Next. Now come to the duties of independent director. The independent directors to undertake appropriate induction to update regularly and refresh skills, knowledge, and familiarity with the company. So it is your duty to get updated regularly, whether it is finance, whether it is company law, whether it is any kind of law, because when you are on the board, you are responsible for each and every act, statutory act. You cannot refrain yourself. And suppose if all the decisions are taken with your knowledge and you have not dissented on it, it means you have agreed to each and every decision which is taken by the board. And the stakeholders depends on the decision which is taken by the board. So the decision making process is a very important process on each and every board. And I think the most important skill which we have to learn is how to take decisions. That is the most important skills if you want to be, how to increase your judgment power and how to take decisions. These two things is very important, irrespective of the knowledge of these laws and regulations. To seek appropriate clarification as necessary, take and follow appropriate professional advice and opinion of outside expert at the expense of the company. This is very important. So if you are in any dilemma, the law has given you the full power to take professional advice and opinion of the outsider experts at the expense of the company. The company cannot deny you. If you want to go to any lawyer for having an opinion on a particular decision which is made by the board, the company will pay for it. So this is your right also, and it is your duty also. To strive to attend all the meeting of board of directors, board committees in which you are a member, and a general meeting. So you cannot avoid attending the board meetings or the committee meetings. You should make sure that you are present in every board meeting, in every committee meeting in which you are a member. To participate constructively and actively in the committees of the board in which they are chairperson or members, to ensure that all concerns are addressed by the board, and to the extent that they are not resolved, you should insist on that concerns and record and instance your concern. And if suppose you have dissented or if you have any special comments, make sure that it is always recorded in the board minutes. Next. To keep well informed about the company and external environment in which it operates. So you should have, you should keep updated what is going on in the company. You should not rely on the memos and reports which is provided you, by the CEO or a CFO exclusively. You should have your own communication, second line of communication in the company, where you get the news, what is happening internally in the company. And even the external environment, how the customers are thinking about the company, or how the relationships are with the customers and bankers and all that. You should have a up-to-date knowledge of that subjects. To avoid obstructing unfairly the functioning of an otherwise proper board or committee of the board. So there are certain kinds of directors, who doesn't allow the board to function, and they have views in everything unnecessarily if they're asked or not. So there has to be a proper decorum, and you should not purposely obstruct the board or committee to exercise their powers. To ensure that adequate deliberations are held before approving related party transactions. This is very important, particularly if you are a member of the audit committee. Then to approve a related party transactions is a very important agenda. You should have knowledge of all the provisions related to related party transactions as far as Companies Act, and in case of listed companies as far as LODR. So this is a very important agenda point, which I think even if you are a board member, you should take into consideration before giving your assent. To ascertain and ensure that the company has an adequate and functional vigil mechanism. Vigil mechanism means, if any employee has some grudges or grievances, so they will report to the vigil mechanism, and the chairperson of the audit committee has to handle this. So you should make sure that this process is working properly in the company. To report concerns about unethical behavior, actual suspected fraud or violation of the company code of conduct or ethic policy. To act, so where to report? To the chairman of the board, and make it sure that it is resolved. To act within their authority, assist in protecting the legitimate interest of the company's shareholders and employees, and to maintain the confidentiality of everything about the business secrets, about the trade secrets, unless the disclosure is explicitly approved by the board or it is required by the law. So this is the duty, roles, and responsibilities of an independent director. I think most of you must have got an idea that to what extent we need to work if we need to occupy a position of an independent director on the board. Next one. So we come to the term of independent directors. That is 5-year original term is there, plus 5-year additional term is there, subject to passing of special resolution and disclosure of the appointment in the board report. After expiry of 10 years, that is 2 terms, there is a cooling off period of 3 years, and in that 3 years, the individual should not be connected or related to the company in any manner as per section 149(6). And then after 3 years, he can be again eligible for the reappointment if the board thinks that he possesses the integrity and have a specialized skills and expertise which is required in the company. And the tenure is non-rotational. He is a non-rotational director. Next. So remuneration of independent director, this is again an important thing, because when you think of occupying a position, I think most of us see what we'll get, right? If you're devoting so much time, if you're taking, if you are taking so much liability on our head, so what we'll get in return, that is, most of us has that criteria in mind. So one is, you have to be aware that what you will get and what you can demand from the company and what you will not get, as far as Companies Act, as far as legal provisions. So one is, you are not entitled to participate in any stock options, right? You cannot subscribe to any shares of the company, neither you will be given any shares. You are entitled to receive a sitting fees for every meeting you have attended. So the maximum limit of sitting fees is 1 lakh rupees per meeting. And if suppose the board has to give more sitting fees than 1 lakh, then it has to take approval of the members in the general meeting. Be entitled to reimbursement of all the expenses for participation in board and other meetings. So whatever the expenses are there, you are entitled to that. And entitled to profit relating commissions as approved by the board. Though it is very rare that you will get a commission on profits of the company, that is 1% to 3% of the profits of the company, but you have to negotiate. If you don't negotiate, you won't get. So you have to see that what role, what kind of company it is, what role you are going to perform, how the corporate governance, what is the history of the company, paying to the directors, all this have to take into consideration while deciding your remuneration with the company as an independent director. Next. Now, board meeting provisions. Board meeting provisions means, the company has to, we all know that board meeting is always conducted by giving at least 7 days prior notice. And in case of any urgent business, if you want to give any shorter notice, then if there is an independent director of the board, so then you have to, at least one independent director should be present in that meeting, in which the shorter notice, which is conducted by giving a shorter notice. And suppose in case of absence of independent director from the meeting of the board, if none of the independent directors are present, then no decision can be taken until it is circulated to all the directors and the ratification is done by at least one independent director. So that important is your position on the board, that if you are not present, then they have to take your assent or dissent, whatever, before conducting the before executing the decision which is taken. Next. So as per Schedule 4, that is a code of conduct of independent director. That's the clause 7 that we already discussed, that you have to conduct one separate, all the independent director has to conduct one separate meeting at least once in a financial year, where they are going to review, the performance of the non-independent directors, chairperson of the company. It's chairperson of the company is written, but there is no concept as chairperson of the company. It's always a chairperson of the board. And the third is quality, quantity, and timeliness of flow of information between the company. Now, this is very important. Suppose if the board, if the director will not get any information, how he will take a decision? That is a basic question, and that is the common sense question. But in most of the companies, as I'm attending lot of board meetings from last 10 years, and what I have seen is that the agenda which comes in the board meeting is pathetic. It is prepared pathetically. Except in bigger companies, where you have a proper secretarial department to, do all these things, and where they have a knowledge of how to prepare it. Otherwise, the agendas of 5 pages, 7 pages, and if the information is not there given to the directors in a proper way, how they are going to perform the duties, and then they will be held responsible, for the decisions to which they are not a party. They don't know anything. They are only aware of the information which is given to them on the board by the CEO or by the senior management. So I think you have to take due care when the agenda comes to you. Agenda is very important part, when you are participating in the board meeting. And if you are not satisfied, you should demand the information, any kind of information you are free to demand from the management, but don't take it for granted. Agenda, you have to see that the quality and quantity of and the information in which it is flowing to you, it is proper and to the satisfaction. You have to do your homework. You should have a proper skin in the game. You cannot take it easy that I'm invited to the board, I will go to the board and take the sitting fees and come back. No, it is not like that. You will put yourself in a great trouble. And there is always there's a highest stake of loss of reputation, as far as your personal assets are also involved. If something gets wrong and you are caught in that, so be very aware when the board meeting agendas board meeting agenda comes to you, you have to scrutinize it, in bit and pieces. Next. Okay, so the penalty for non-compliance of independent directors. So as far as Companies Act, where specific no penalty is given, it is every officer of the company who is in default shall be punishable with fine, which shall not be less than 50,000 rupees, but which may extend to 5 lakh rupees. But we will see what is the penalty as far as LODR. Next. Where the no punishment is prescribed elsewhere in the Act, he shall be punishable with imprisonment for the term which may extend to 10 years or with fine which may extend to 25 crores rupees or with both. So this is the extent of penalty on the independent directors as well. Next. Now section 149(12) of the Companies Act, it gives a little bit immunity. What it says that the independent director or any non-executive director cannot be held responsible or liable, if the such acts or the omission or commission by the company which has occurred with his knowledge, if any of the omission or any of the default done by the company or by the board is occurred with his knowledge, attributed to the board processes, means it is decided by the board as a whole, the collective decision is made, by conducting the board meeting, committee meeting, and a proper process is followed. So even as an independent director, you should be aware that what kind of board process is followed in the company, how the decisions are taken. That is the most important point before accepting the board meetings, even as an independent director in any company. And with his consent or where he has not acted diligently. So if these 4 factors are there, if these 4 ingredients are present, then you will be held liable. If it has occurred with your knowledge, if it has been done through the proper board process, you have not dissented on it, and a collective decision has been taken, the minutes does not record your dissent, or there is no record with you that that you have given comments or you have given your dissent on the particular agenda item, and it has done with your consent, and where you have not acted diligently. So if these 4 things are, the 4 factors are present in that, you will be held responsible. Now, a very important circular which came out from the MCA on 2nd March 2020. It was directed to the ROC and RD offices that what steps you should take to file any prosecution against the independent directors or the non-promoters or the nominee directors. Next. So just a highlight of the MCA circular. You can also, it is available on the MCA site and it is worth reading. And what it says that that before prosecuting the independent directors, the ROC or the RD should always ascertain that whether he is a present director from the records and minutes and everything available with the company, what role he played in the company, how the board, how the decisions were taken, whether he has assented, whether there is any assent or dissent on the record of that independent director. So he has to call the ROC or RD before prosecution. They have to call the various documents from the company to even they have online documents also. They have to scrutinize everything before prosecuting to them. Then the independent directors, nominee directors should not be aided in any criminal or civil proceeding unless the above mentioned criteria is met. So whatever the 4 criteria we have already discussed, if it is met, then it is okay. Otherwise, you cannot prosecute them criminally or in any civil proceedings. Filing or information records with the registry, maintenance of corporate registers, statutory registers, or minutes of the meetings, or compliance with the order issued by statutory auditors are not the responsibility of independent directors unless any specific requirement is provided by the Act. So suppose if any company has not filed DR12 or any company has not filed the annual return, so it is not a responsibility of the independent director. Independent directors are not involved in day-to-day affairs of the company. They have a specific mandate which is given by the government. They are the watchdog of the company, and they should not be held responsible for this petty non-compliances. The responsibility of non-executive director ordinarily arises in such case where there are no full-time director or KMP. If you go through the officer in default definition as far as Companies Act, suppose if there is no full-time director or KMP in the company, then only the honors will be, or this will be shifted to the on the shoulders of the independent director. Otherwise, they will be responsible for all kind of non-compliances. Next. At the time of servicing the notice during inquiry inspection, they have to see whether they are present in the next one. No, previous one. Yes, previous one. Actually, previous one. At the time of servicing notices to the company during inquiry, inspection, investigation, necessary document will be sought to ascertain the involvement of concerned officers in the company. We already discussed that the ROC is duty bound to demand the documents from the company to see the level of the gravity of the involvement of the independent directors in the company. The records available in Office of Registrar, including DR 11 and 12, and they have to ascertain from the copies of annual return and also from the financial statement to ascertain whether the particular director of the KMP was serving with the company as on date of default. So when the default occurred, whether he was director or not. In many cases, the past directors are caught, in the lapses which is done in the current date. So they have to do the scrutiny of all these things before sending or before prosecuting the independent directors or the nominee directors, in short, the non-executive directors. Next. And if the ROC and RD has any doubt on the particular case, then they can also seek the directions or the advice from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So this is a basic provisions which is applicable to the independent directors, and it is very important to do your SWOT analysis whether you should go for this career option or not. No doubt it is a very lucrative career option, but then you have to you are better, it's a self judging, whether I possess this kind of skills, to whether I have this capacity to take the risk, to occupy the board seat as an independent director. So we as a professional are already, we know the rules of the game, right? We know the laws and we know everything, but we need polishing. We need another skills, which is needed to take an effective decision collectively on the board. So I think the most important two skills are there to develop your judgment power, judgment skill, and second is decision making skill. So you are preparing to become a corporate independent director. So I have prepared a very good video, on my YouTube channel. If you want to see, you can follow my channel. And in that, I have given a tips what you should see before occupying the board seat as an independent director, and when you are you actually are on the board of the independent as an independent director of any company. So I think you can, if you have time, you can just see this video. You can get many tips on that. Next one. Now $1 million question. ID position a crown of roses or crown of thorns? So I think the presentation which I have made on the basic provisions of the Companies Act and as well as LODR provision, most of you must be aware that whether it is a crown of roses or crown of thorns. I am not discouraging anything. It's a very lucrative option, no doubt in that, but the expectations from the independent directors is increased manyfold. We have a dual role, like in decision making also, and we have to monitor the affairs of the company also. And the most important thing is that we are not involved into day-to-day affairs of the company, neither we are expected to be involved in day-to-day affairs of the company. So if the information doesn't reaches to us the flow of the information is not proper, not accurate, then how we will able to perform the duties? And I was just looking to the number of the independent directors who have resigned in 2018. It was 1,400 independent directors resigned from the post in 2018, whereas in 2017 it was only 600 to 700. So you can see that the steep rise in the resignation which is given by the independent directors. Why the resignation is given by them? The main question arises there. If we are having the laws, if we are having everything, then why then? Because there is always a fear, because in India 80% of the companies are family owned companies. That is a fact. The promoters will not, sometimes the promoters will not allow to pass on the information on the board, and the bad news does not come to the board. They are resolved, or they are buried by the senior management only at that level, and when it comes to the board it is too late to tackle. And there is a fear of loss of reputation. There is a fear of of their personal assets coming into danger. Like you must have seen the recent judgment of Supreme Court in Jay Prakash Associates, where the independent director accounts was freeze, assets was freeze, due to the insolvency of its group concerned company. There are many cases, which are happening nowadays, where the independent directors are targeted, their personal accounts of these personal bank assets are taken into consideration. Even in the case of Neerav Choksi case, also in Gitanjali Gems, also the independent directors was, the assets was freeze, and now they have to fight it out, that they were not involved into day-to-day affairs of the company, should not be held responsible. So because of all these fears, the independent directors, whenever they feel that, okay, now the process is, they feel that the corporate governance practices is not enough, or there is a fear of any financial fraud in the company, then, they have only one option, to resign from the board. But when you want to resign from the board, then why you are occupying the position of the independent director at the first instance? That is a big question. So whenever you opt for any company, you have to see who are the promoters, what is the background of the company, who are the directors, other directors of the company, who are the advisors to the company, who is the statutory auditor of the company, who are the other independent directors on the board. You have to see the media coverages of last 5 years, the financial reports, the board report, how the directors are paid in the past, how the directors are evaluated in the past. Then you have to take the search from the MCA, that how many directors are appointed and resigned during the last 3 years. You will get a trend that what is the company is doing, that why they are appointing so many directors, and why the directors are going out of the company. So all these, things you have to take into consideration, before deciding that whether you should occupy a position of independent director or not. And secondly, you should have the courage, you should have that boldness, to speak up and to participate in the meetings. The board cannot read your mind. You have to express your views in every board meeting, and you have to make sure that, the dissent is recorded in the minutes. If I have also seen many practical cases where the directors, they express their dissents, but as a chairman is responsible of finalizing the minutes, the dissent never comes in the minutes. So in that case, you should maintain a record of any emails which is done to the chairman, that I dissented on this point, but it is not recorded in the minutes. The proper record has to be kept for your own safety. So I think the government has, a lot of expectation from this position, which is in a way, it is not justifiable or reasonable, because our laws does not protect the independent directors in that way. So if government, give more power to the independent director, more stricter laws are there to protect the independent director, and the management also, takes the efforts, to have a proper information flow to them, give them powers, give the proper transparency and accountability there in the company, then only I think it is worth taking the position of independent director. Otherwise, if you are well possessed with all the experience and expertise and skills which is related to the company affairs, then I think you can very well move forward for this position. Next. So part B. So this is a headline of the town now: online proficiency self-assessment test and future prospects. I was just going to the independent data bank site, IICA site today, and I found that 17,666 directors have registered till date, and in that around 2,900 directors have passed the self-assessment test. The number is quite low. Let's see how it's how it will work in future. Next. Next, Anjali. Next, Anjali. Yes, yes. Okay. So I think some technical problem is there. We will take a question answers till then. I have received some questions from Anjali, what has been passed on by you all to her. So first question is, what are the criteria or factors to consider before selecting the directorship? So I think we have already discussed in detail that you have to understand what is the role and responsibilities and duties of you as an independent director. And as far as criteria is concerned, you have to look about the promoters, about the board, who are the directors on the board. We have already discussed, what you have to see. And if you want to know more in detail, you can just watch my video on YouTube. And you will get a very good idea about how to go about it. And the most important is learn the art of dealing in boardroom. That is the most important skill, along with the judgment and decision power making skills. You should know how to deal in the boardroom. Just getting, just passing these exams, self-professed assessment exams, or just an expert in a particular field won't make you a successful independent director. It is all the around a different ball game, and you need terrific skills, interpersonal skills, to succeed as an independent director. So this is very important. You should also attend the training programs, which is conducted by the Professional Institute in training the prospective directors, like IOD. Even our ICSI is conducting, a lot of even the ICSI also conducting the training programs. So I think the training programs are very important because it gives a practical tips, how to deal in the boardroom. Second is how to tap the opportunities for becoming a director. So I remember a very famous quote that a journey to the boardroom is a journey of 1,000 coffees, and the journey begins with a single sip. So I think first of all, you have to be confident about yourself that you are fully equipped to act as an independent director. Then obviously you have to do networking. You have to show your expertise that you can deal with the boardroom. Expertise is not just that if I know a company law and I can speak on company law matters, it doesn't mean that I will be a successful independent director. Or if anybody speaks on finance matters, it doesn't mean that you'll be a successful independent director. There are a lot of other skills which is required, and if you are confident enough that you can deal with such things, then you can very well go ahead. So this is all about networking, networking in the right group. And you should always remember that you should be a right fit in the right board. You should always ask that how I am relevant to this particular board, why these people has approached me for a post of an independent director, whether I know about the area of the business or the affairs in which this company is operating, how I will add the value to the board. So this 3-4 questions you should ask yourself before selecting, tapping this opportunity. What are the specific requirements as to communication and interpersonal skills by attending the board meeting? I already discussed that there are, as far as my experience goes, and I am regularly attending the board meetings, and I see how the directors behave in the board, and it is all about the human behavior actually. The 50% is your discussion which is happening on the legal matters and financial matters, and 50% is the decision, how the decisions are taken. So the process of decision making is very important, and so it is all about the art of dealing, interpersonal skills, how do you negotiate, how you decide, how you speak up, whether you have a courage to speak up on particular meeting. I just observed there are many intelligent directors, who are there on the board, but they are not able to speak up or express their views. So in that case, silence is golden, but silence is not golden in the boardrooms. You don't have to follow this principle. You have to speak up, to express your views. And if you don't speak up, it will put you in the trouble in the long term. So if you have a daring to speak up your mind on each and every item, you should be there. So these are your judgment skills, your decision making skills, how you work in a team, your team spirit. I think that is very important. How to evaluate the agenda of the board meetings. So this is very important question. The evaluation of the, okay, Anjali, you are there? Okay, previous slide. Let us complete with this examination part. Previous slide. Previous slide. Okay. So applicability of the rules. So we all know that till 30th November 2019, listed company and other prescribed unlisted company, they were not required to select the independent directors from the approved data bank, which is which is constituted by IICA, that is Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. However, the situation has been changed with effect from 1st December 2019, after which the NCA has notified these two rules, that is company appointment and qualification of directors, and Fifth Amendment rule, and company accounts amendment, and even the creation of data bank rules have also come into existence. Now the companies can only appoint independent directors who are registered with IICA data bank with effect from 1st December 2019. Next. Now, who are required to register themselves with the independent directors data bank? That is all existing independent directors who are there on the board. That is all non-executive director acting as ID, and also all executive directors acting as ID on the board of other company. They have to get themselves registered within 7 months from the commencement of the rule. That is from the 1st December, like just I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, the extension has come for another 2 months. So now you can register, till 30th June 2020. Till the date was 30th April, but it is extended by 2 months more. So you have to get yourself registered with this data bank by 30th June 2020. And the prospective individuals who want to get appointed as an independent director, they after 1st December 2019, they also need to get themselves registered before taking such appointment. Next. Now, what is the process of empanelment of independent director? You should have a valid DIN, PAN card number, and passport number. DIN is not mandatory though. If you are not having DIN number, then also you can voluntarily get yourself registered with the data bank. Process is given on ICICI website, which is self-explanatory. A beautiful video is there. The write-ups are there. It is very easy to get registered. Apply online to the institute for inclusion of this name in the data bank for a period of 1 year or 5 years or lifetime. So 3 options are given: 1 year, 5 years, and a lifetime option is given, and the fees is also charged accordingly. For 1 year it is 5,000 plus GST. For 5 years it is 15,000 plus GST, and for lifetime, which came recently, it is 25,000 plus GST. Provided that the individual, including an individual not having DIN, may also voluntarily do the registration. Every individual whose name has been so included in the data bank, if there is any changes in your particular, you have to inform the data bank within 30 days from the date of expiry of the period. That is, to include the changes in your data bank. Provided that no application of renewal shall be made. Okay, if your registration is going to expire also, then also within 30 days from the date of expiry of the period, you have to request for the renewal of the your registration. Every independent director shall submit a declaration of compliance of sub rule 1, means when you have to submit a declaration of your independency as per section 149(7). The line has to be added that you have already registered with this data bank, and you have also, if you have cleared the examination, that has to be mentioned in that. Next, the step for individual after empanelment of data bank, that is share your details, get empaneled, access online. Once you get register yourself, you will get a registration certificate, and then there are online learning system is there on the website itself, where there are different modules which you can refer before appearing for the exams. Get future. So once you are registered, you will get future on the dashboard, and the corporate will be able to access you for this position. Then learn from the knowledge resources and update. There are a lot of articles, a lot of updates which are, there's a beautiful site which is prepared by the ministry, and the self-assessment. And the last step is to give your self-assessment test. Now, online proficiency self-assessment test. So this is conducted as per as section 151 of the Companies Act, and IICA is empowered to do so. Now it will conduct this test through this independent directors data bank, that is www.independentdirectorsdatabank.com. The site is there. The test already started from 1st March 2020, and I was the first one to appear for this on the very first day, in the very first slot of 8:30. I remember that, and cleared it accordingly. So empanelment application are to be submitted by 30th June. 2 months extension is given. And the online proficiency exams is required to be passed within 1 year from the data of entry in the data bank. So within 1 year, when you are registered with the data bank, you have to clear your exams. The test will be based on relevant topics, that is company law, basic accountancy, security laws, and corporate governance practices. Next. Now, what is the process outline for the test? How you can appear for the test? You have to log in a data bank, go to the dashboard, select the slot as per as your convenience for attending the test. Attempt the test as far as slot booked. Now, slots are there, like there are 3 slots are there from which you have to, as far as your convenience, you can book that. The system is well designed to the metal platform. You get a reminder mail on the day of your selected slot with a few key do's and don'ts. The test can be taken on a desktop or laptop sitting at home with a functional webcam. No external help should be attempted or one risks disqualification. So you have to be very careful about that. It is monitored well by the authority. Get the test results and report published. It's an immediate test. Within 75 minutes you have to clear the test and you get a result on the spot. 60% is a minimum passing marks, and on clearing the test, the certificate is awarded that can be downloaded. And there is no limit on the number of attempts to pass a test. So it is not a competitive exam like CAT or something like that. There is no limit. You can do it. In as many attempts you want. Now, what are the rules pertaining to self-assessment test? Every individual whose name is included in the data bank shall pass an online self-assessment test within 1 year from the date of inclusion of his name in data bank. And if he is not able to clear in 1 year, his registration will be cancelled. It doesn't mean that he is disqualified to be a director. He cannot be appointed as only as an independent director in any particular company. He can be appointed as a normal director. He is not. Non-clearance of test is not a disqualification to be appointed as a director. Only you cannot be appointed as an independent director. You will be, if you are an independent director in particular company and if you are not able to clear it out, then you will be ceased to be an independent director from the expiry of that 1 year from the date of registration. Provided that the individual, there are exemptions are there. So it's a director or a KMP in a listed company or an unlisted company having a paid up capital of 10 crores or more, or a body corporate which is registered in the recognized stock exchange. Suppose body corporate means if you are LLP or any statutory body corporate which is registered with the stock exchange. If you are served in that particular company or a body corporate for 10 years or more, you don't have to give up as a KMP or as a director. You don't have to give this test. An individual who has obtained a score of not less than 60% in aggregate shall be deemed to have passed such test. So there is no limit to take attempts. There must be a cap of 15 days. Suppose if in the first attempt you are not able to clear it, so for booking a second slot, you can only book the second slot within 15 days of your last attempt. So there has to be gap between 50 days between 2 slots booked. If an individual fails to pass a test on a particular slot or misses a slot due to any reason, the next slot only can be booked after 15 days from the previous book slot date and time. There are 3 slots. Among the 3 slots, you can select, as per as your own convenience. That is morning 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., afternoon 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., and evening it is 8 to 9 p.m. To book a slot, you have to simply go to your dashboard and you have to click the option that is a book the slot, and you can book your slot for the test. There is also a self-assessment guide or what self-help videos which can which you can see, which will enable you, which will guide you to how to enroll for this test. And you can also take a mock test to familiarize yourself with the test environment and check the system requirements. These mock tests are very important. No one should ever miss this mock test, and I think it is a great help in the final exams also. So never miss the mock test. Yeah. So what is the scheme of the self-assessment test? So this is a scheme. Total marks 100. Total number of MCQs is 50. 50 question comes 25 each, and total test duration is 75 minutes. The mark assigned to each question is 2 marks, and average time allotted to each question is 1.5 minutes. So how it is breakup? That is 25 MCQs comes from board essentials. That is a very direct question. That is regarding your Companies Act, your financial basic accountancy, the security laws, and the next part is board practice. That is it is a scenario based. It's a kind of case studies. Then you have to decide. So here your judgment skills and decision making power skills, plays a very important role along with your regulatory knowledge. So this 25 MCQs come from this section also. Next. Now, what are the tips for clearing a self-proficiency exams? So obviously it requires the effort and preparation time. This is my personal view actually. we as a professional, as we know the rules of the game, we are already into this, regulatory. We already know the rules and regulation which is applicable to the company as far as the Companies Act is concerned, LODR based accountancy, accounting standards. So we don't face that much issue, in passing out these exams. But I wonder how the layman who is just a friend or relative of a director and who sits on the board, how easy he will be able to clear this exam is a big question mark. It is not that easy. What it seems very tricky questions are there. It may seem very easy, but then you have to apply your mind, and you should have a proper knowledge of the laws and rules and regulations. So it requires efforts and preparation time. The test process and environment are well designed and well monitored. It is well monitored. You cannot cheat or you cannot do anything wrong. You will be disqualified forever if you're caught up. Don't hurry up. Read the question carefully, as questions are designed smartly. And sometimes you feel that all the options are right. The MCQs are designed so smartly that you have to think. Don't hurry up. Take your well time, because 2 minutes time is given for each question, which is sufficient enough. Attend the orientation programs conducted by professional institutes like ICSI, ICSI, and IOD. Now, this is very important, just to teach your, professionals only the rules and regulations and to advise them to become an independent director. I think that is wrong advice, which anyone can give. There are a lot more to train them. The practical training is very important besides this theoretical part. I think the practical training plays a very important role, especially the case studies. The case studies has to be discussed with them, that in particular what scenario, what decision was taken, how it went wrong, how the independent directors were, was held liable for that. And this and even a simple case scenarios are like, suppose example is that suppose there are 5 directors on the board, right? And 5 directors on the board, and the 3 directors, there is one agenda item which comes on the board table, to diversify the business of the company, and 3 directors agreed on that, and 2 directors, they dissent on that. So how the decision will be taken? In many cases, it is taken by the majority. The 3 are assented, it is taken, but the 2 are not. They 2 are not agreeing to it. So how, in that case, whether the decision will be valid in a true spirit of law? So as an independent director, how you will tackle this position, this situation? So this scenario-based, the case studies is required to be discussed with the prospective candidates, board members. So test is based on 42 e-learning modules available within the LMS system of the data bank. Beautiful 42 bit size modules are there, but it will give you an idea. Obviously, you have to refer in detail in some of the cases. It is strictly advisable to clear online courses option beneath the member services on ICSI. So these 42 modules are there. This is the online courses, and it is my advice that one should read each and every module, clear the test, self-assessment test, and then appear for the final exams. Courses is divided into 2 categories, that is board essential courses and board practice courses. So in board essential, there are 25 bit size modules, with a self-assessment quiz kind of thing. So it's regarding all the provisions of the Companies Act regarding the incorporation, share capital, meetings, prospectus, liability of directors, duty of directors, secretarial audit, secretarial standards, and CSR, how to read your balance sheet, decoding the financial statements, your accounting ratios and all that about the knowledge, basic accountancy. So it is everything which is essential for the board to know, right? And the 17 next one, and the 17 bit side modules are there in board practices. Now this board practices part is very tricky. Actually, it is scenario based, a part, and which I think in this very less of your board essential come into picture. Your judgment skills, your decision making power, and how you decide and how you analyze the whole situation and decide the option, that is important here. And the case studies are also discussed, and the most important case study is Satyam case. You have to read this case thoroughly. And what I have heard and what I have faced, 99%, the scenario-based question comes from the Satyam case also. So this is about the due diligence before joining a board, board effectiveness, board process, flow of information, how the information is flowing to the board from the management, then evaluation of the independent directors. So all this kind of scenario-based question come in this. Always take mock test, which is of 20 minutes, consisting of 2 sections, that is 15 questions each. This is very important. You will able to have an idea about what is the test environment, how the questions are drafted, a clear idea you will get, how you can go about giving the final exam. So never miss the mock test. You have to give the mock test, and I think you can give number of times. There is no restriction to that. The question may appear simple, but are actually very tricky. And if one attempts them without preparation, it could get difficult. So you will see that is but for us professionals, obviously nothing is not that difficult. But if you see from the eyes of a layman, sitting as an independent director, so I think he will face a difficulty, sure, until and unless a practical training is given to them. The test is not a common, it's not a CAT or any competitive exam. So take your time, relax, and understand the question and then pick a right answer. The system has an option that let you review and revise your answers also. So use that. If you have any confusion, you can before submitting, finally submitting your test paper, you can just revise and review your answers, and take advice of other professionals to clear your doubts. If you have any doubt, you can approach professionals as CEOs, CS, for any kind of doubts in any kind of topic which you are facing. So with this, we covered the 2 important segments, and I think these both are very important for any independent director who is there on the board or a prospective independent director. And if you want more videos if you want more ideas, you can just subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm sharing my views on board processes and directors training on that, like what criteria you should know to become a director, how the agenda should be read, how the information should be flowed to the board, how the bad news should be given, what are the top agendas which should be taken into consideration in this COVID-19 times by the board of every company. So there are different kind of topics which I'm discussing. You can subscribe to that. And with this, I'm done, Anjali. Any questions? We are not able to hear you. You can type something if you want to ask. Okay. The question came that how to evaluate the board meeting agenda. This is a very nice question, and I think every independent director should learn to evaluate the board meeting agenda, because effective leadership is determined by the effective decisions taken. So whenever the board agenda comes to you, divide the board agenda into 3 parts: the items which are taken for noting, the items which are for information, and the items which are for decisions. You have to analyze that what are the direct and indirect agenda in this board meeting, whether the supportings which came to you, it is in proper format, that is executive summary of any agenda is given, what is the financial implication of that agenda point is given by the CFO or the finance department, and what is a proposed recommendation from the CO desk for that particular agenda point, and what resolution or what decisions they expect from the board in this agenda item. Suppose if you find that anything, if suppose any information is lacking, or you are not able to find the authenticity of any information which is provided to you, you should ask to the board, to the chairman, to the CEO, whosoever you want to ask in the company, but clear your doubts. Don't ever give your decisions like this in the board meeting, because you will be held responsible in future anytime if it is not given vigilantly or decided vigilantly. So do have to be separately empaneled on ICICI after passing the ID? No, we don't have to get empaneled. You have to empanel one time for 1 year, 5 years, or lifetime. And if suppose you are for 1 year or 5 years, then you have to renew for that. Yeah, Vishal. But if they're able to listen to me.
इसमें भी नहीं आ रहा.
No.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, Anjali.
Okay, fine. You were saying something, you answered that question. I was just in middle of this technical issue.
You want me to repeat the answer of analyzing the agenda?
No, I got it. Let us see, anybody has any other questions, otherwise we'll close the session. Okay. I would now request CA Hema Shah to propose vote of thanks. You are not audible. Attendees.
Yeah, I think I'm audible now.
Yes, yeah, audible now.
Yeah, on behalf of Ahmedabad branch of WIRC, I would like to propose a formal, not I won't say formal vote of thanks. In fact, we would like to, so nicely you have taken us across lucidly towards the roles, responsibilities, duties, remuneration, penalties for independent director, and made it seem so easy. But at the same time, you have cautioned us that what the seat of an independent director means, and it is just not the sitting fees that one should look at. And you have shared your experience and knowledge and enriched us, and we had a wonderful enriching session. Thanks Shilpi, and we would look forward to having you many times over to the institute, though you willingly always make yourself available for us. And for the same, Anjali, me and the entire branch, we express a hearty vote of thanks to you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, and all the best.
Thanks a lot.
Luckily, we both have cleared this independent directors, but I think what you said, whether it's a crown of rose or crown of thorns, we need to evaluate it, and definitely we seek your guidance. Yes. Thank you so
Anytime.
much, and thank you, and thank you members for your attendance. Looking forward for many more webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.